Hello and welcome. My name is Carsten Lützen. I'm a Scrum Master and Agile Coach, and I'll be sharing some of my tips and tricks. This exercise that I'm going to look into today is something I really like in a retrospective. Remember, retrospectives are, if you ask me, one of the most important ceremonies in Scrum. That is where we can look at our process. Where are we heading at the moment? Are there any impediments we need to take care of and deal with? That also means this is the meeting where we can maybe even vent out a lot, but also come up with improvements and suggestions on how can we actually be an even better team. When we are facilitating this, I really like to use a solutions-focused coaching toolbox. So that is maybe changing some of the questions slightly that we ask, instead of just saying, okay, what can we do about it? But using the solution-focused approach, and I'll show that when we get to the example. This exercise exists in many different variations. One variation is, for instance, that we make a map of a country, that is our team, and then we begin to draw all our neighboring nations, aka other teams that we have dealings with. How are these dealings? Do we have a good diplomatic connections, or is there maybe even a war? And how can we become an even more influential country? I like another version of it slightly better, where we actually draw a treasure map and imagining ourselves to be on a boat, and then we can start to talk about what does that boat look like. So let's say that we have a team here, right? So this team is actually okay. They decided to draw a boat like this. So that is the team, and of course this entire exercise is done with the team drawing. I try not to draw anything. So just put it on the wall, put it on a table, a piece of paper, hand out pens, and then just let people go crazy. And then take the discussions as they come, right? Because then some people will begin to discuss and try to draw something. And it just gives a lot of really, really nice discussions around the table, right? So for instance, we could have this team here. They think the treasure is up here. What is this treasure? And again, if we take the solution-focused approach, how do we know that we actually arrived at this treasure? How can we say that? How do we know this? So that could be, we know we've reached and found the treasure when everybody on the team can do all assignments in a sprint. We know we arrived at this when everybody in the team have done knowledge sharing sessions towards other teams. We know we have arrived at this when we have become even better co-workers and even better at actually helping each other. We might also have some obstacles along the way, right? It would be super awesome if we could just say we can go directly from here to here. But of course something will hit us, and we often have an idea, right? It could be a big storm, for instance, with lightning. So what does that symbolize? So that could be a reorganization or some technologies that becomes deprecated. And instead of asking, what can we do to fix this? Turn it around a bit and ask, how do we know when we steered clear of this storm? What are the sure signs that we actually overcome this obstacle? So if it's technology, right, then that might be that we have new tech in place. And then we can start to dive into how can we actually make sure that we have new tech in place, and take it that way around, being more optimistic instead of just how do we know when we hit this problem. It could also be that we have some other team that we need to have dealings with at some point in time, right? So we could draw them as a boat that we need to interact with at some point. And then when we begin to build up this map, right, at some point we'll just say, now we actually think we have the main things that will hit our team in place. So how do we navigate? We cannot visit all these locations at once, so we need to lay down a course. So that might be that we go up to this first, and then continue to this, and then up to the treasure. But we cannot do that. We cannot necessarily predict this far into the future, right? Instead, we'll probably take one, maybe even two obstacles we'll look into and see if we can solve. So let's look at an example I prepared in advance. So here we have Team Tipping. They decided to make their boat actually pretty nice, so they're in a good place. They're not dealing with a lot of problems. Their treasure is hidden up here, and that is good colleagues, new technology, dare to fail, cake every demo and spread knowledge. The route up there is not trivial, right? So there is maybe even a small treasure hidden here, higher collaboration with accounting, that could give this team some benefits, maybe improved recognition inside the organization or similar. We also have a guy coming back from paternity leave, so we need to onboard him at some point in time. What about this monster of technical debt? That might be something that follows us around and will only grow stronger until we actually tackle it. So what we do is we actually start to discuss in the team and maybe even vote. So what is the first stop on our journey? For this team, it might be to deal with this technical monster. So how do we know when we actually dealt with this and won over this technical debt monster? And then we just start with post-its, writing down sure signs that we've dealt with this. When we then agree on that, then we probably have enough focus point for a sprint. Then in the next retrospective, what we do is we look at this map. Is there something that we need to add? Or maybe are there something that isn't relevant anymore? Then it might be that now we want to go to process straight, because we have some problems with our process, our Scrum process that we want to tackle. It might be that we don't think refinement is working at the moment. So what can we do about that? Because this team is on the hunt for the white whale of Scrum. Of course, this map will grow stale after 2, 3, 4 iterations. But until then, we have this really nice representation of where are we in our journey right now and what are we focusing on. And then, when we think this has grown stale, we can make a new map and we can continue to do that. And it's a really, really nice exercise that gets people energized, right? By actually trying to draw out stuff. It doesn't need to be pretty. We just need to draw something and discuss what is process straight and why do we think it's one of the main issues at the moment. So that was this sea map or treasure map or nautical map or whatever we call it. If you have any feedback, comments, questions, ideas, let me know. Have a nice day.